welcome back to my channel. This is Anastasia here with this week's Teen Mom Recap. Before I start with this week's episode, I would love it if you go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I post new videos weekly about whatever Teen Mom show is airing at the time. I recap the episode, I make it a lot shorter, sweeter, and funnier. So if that sounds good to you, go ahead and subscribe. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. We start off with Kate. She says, I had a periurethral cyst that has been flaring up, and the doctor says he needs to surgically remove it. Do not Google periurethral cyst. It's basically a vagina cyst, and it hurt me just looking at it. When I get the surgery, I'll need a catheter for 10 days. Oh god. So many bags full of Kate's orange pee. She tells Tyler, I don't like putting everything on you while I can't do anything. And Tyler says, well, this isn't the first time you've been helpless. Damn. Tyler did not forget those 10 rehab stays a couple years ago. He seems to realize that was a little bit harsh, so he says, well, you're getting your vag cut open, don't feel bad. I'd be in bed if I had my dick cut open. Macy goes to dinner with her mom, who is basically her twin. She says Bentley will be 13 on Saturday and we're going bowling. It's been a year since the shooting, and the sounds still make me anxious. I hope the sounds of bowling don't give me PTSD. I'm sorry, it's not funny. It's not funny. Amber has a custody hearing and needs someone to testify on her behalf. Who better to do this than her ex, who she used to beat? She calls Gary and asks him. He hesitates for a second and he says, I don't mind doing it, but I can't lie to them. There's good and bad parts to you. She says, well, I did way worse to your ass. And then MTV shows flashback footage of her beating his ass while the screen says, previously recorded footage. Like, as if we couldn't tell by the 144p quality. Gary says, yeah, I was living on a prayer back then, but in the end, he still agrees to testify for her. Corey takes Ryder for the day and asks her if there's anything she wants to talk about since she did witness the shooting, but she says no. Meanwhile, Cheyenne has to go to court again. She says, I worry most how this will affect Ryder. I mean, it affects her in that she could have gotten shot. She decides to call Macy, who was in a somewhat similar situation a couple years ago. She tells Macy, this was not a quick situation. This went on for blocks and blocks. We had a full conversation while it was happening. Macy says, well, with me, I didn't have Bentley with me, and I wasn't targeted. I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. I can't imagine how you feel. Yeah, I mean, that is a big difference. It's not Taylor's fault that Macy got shot at. Taylor's ugly t-shirt company does have borderline criminal prices, but Taylor didn't actually steal people's money like Zach did. Macy advises Cheyenne to get a trauma-specific therapist and to not obsess over the what-ifs. Gary puts on a fresh new business shirt and goes to court for Amber. Zoom court, that is. No nice pants needed. They didn't film the actual hearing, but they do talk about it afterward. He says, they asked about Leah's upbringing. It wasn't perfect, but I told them that she made a turnaround. She's better with James than she was with Leah. Christina says, just because Amber can't post James on social media doesn't mean she doesn't see him. And Gary doesn't want Andrew getting full custody and taking him to California because then Leah won't see James. Spoiler alert, that's exactly what ended up happening. Probably the best for James, but that is sad for Leah. Briana wants to go to New York to try to see her dad, who abandoned her when she got pregnant. Roxanne admits, well, guys, I actually sent your dad a letter about a month ago telling him that he needs to apologize to you guys. I forgot to tell you. Brittany says, why you lying, Roxanne? Oh, I forgot. Bullshit, you didn't forget. You just didn't want to tell us. I mean, yeah, true. Just like she didn't tell Brittany for 20 years that her dad wasn't her dad and her real dad passed away. I don't know if you guys watched, I think it's called Marriage Boot Camp Family Edition, but they were on that show and Roxanne did not look good in it. Roxanne says, I don't want to make peace with him. I hate him, but I sent that letter for you. And you know what? I don't owe anyone an explanation. Yeah, you kinda do. You just said you did all this for your kids, and then you said you don't owe them an explanation. Starting to think it wasn't actually for them. Bentley has his birthday party at the bowling alley, and the sound of the bowling balls hitting the floor is making Macy all wide-eyed. Bentley, take them there balloons outside where I can't hear them pop, and she makes Bentley go take all the balloons out. Taylor gets her some beer though, and she feels a little better after that. Kate comes back from her surgery. It hurts to sit down, but overall she's doing fine, and she goes to lay down in bed. However, after filming ends, she goes to the ER for complications with the catheter. Amber meets up with a new friend named Deetra. I can't stop thinking about how James could be away from his family. I don't know when they're going to make that decision, which just makes it even scarier. But I don't give up easily. I've been fighting for years. Should have been fighting that custody battle and not fighting your boyfriends. Briana is mad that her mom reached out to her dad and said nothing about it. Brittany is way more torn up about it though. She cries and she says, I don't even like mom. She doesn't respect our feelings. I don't even know where I would be with her if it was not for your kids bringing us together. She also doesn't want to go to New York. She says, I don't give a fuck about him. Briana decides to save a couple hundred on a flight and write a letter before actually going up to New York. So she writes a short letter and she reads it. Dad, I needed you and you weren't there. I was supposed to cry on your shoulder, but I ended up crying on different men's shoulders about you. I want to repair our relationship. I love you and I miss you. I thought that was very sad but sweet. Cheyenne's court date gets continued once again. Everyone is just glad that at least the guy is in custody, but they still want to face him. They decide to go to a rage room to release their stress. I absolutely love rage rooms, by the way. They are so fun and I highly recommend them. I had the time of my life destroying shit when I went, and I actually destroyed so much stuff that they gave me extra time and more stuff to destroy. For free too, I guess they were impressed with me. It's been a week since Kate's surgery and she is miserable. She had to get a new catheter, which also failed, and she admits that she basically pees her pants every day. She says, thank God I have an understanding husband who's willing to mop up my pee for the next week. Next is the most forced scene I have ever seen on this show, where poor Jade asks Macy, Mommy, why don't you like loud noises? Definitely not producer prompted at all. Remember the gas station, honey? That's something I'm scared of. Is there anything you're scared of? And Jade says, when we went to my awards show. Then Macy does a little exposure therapy where Bentley pops balloons and Macy has to try to stay calm. Cheyenne is still in the rage room. I have been to many rage rooms, and I have never seen one where they had a damn car, like an entire car. Like, does everything Cheyenne do have to be so extra? Her mom asks, well, is it working? I guess not, because she starts crying. She says, I don't know, it's not fair. I don't even go anywhere anymore because I'm so scared. Ryder's innocence was taken, and the worst part was, I couldn't hear Ryder during the shooting. That kills me. For the longest time in that drive, I didn't even know what was happening to her. Next is Amber. She goes out to eat at Gary's. She says, I could have gotten other people to testify for me, obviously, but I have a history with you. Obviously. Yeah, like, who else does Amber hang out with who would testify on her behalf? Her couch? Gary literally twiddles his thumbs and looks totally awkward and uncomfortable. People don't know how much I have James. If he's gone, how will that affect me? Amber says. Does Amber think of anyone but herself? Briana smartens up and decides against going to New York. She tells her mom, I'm not upset that you wrote that letter to him, just annoyed that you didn't tell us. And then Roxanne is like, oh yeah, speaking of that, I also talked to him on the phone, but he hung up on me. And Brittany and Briana are like, are you serious? You just lied again and held back information from us again after we just had a fight about this last week. We didn't actually talk, he hung up on me right away. And if I call him 1,000 times, it's none of your guys' business. I'm glad she gets called out here. Brittany says, you're not protecting anybody by doing this. And she's like, I'm a victim of him too. Brittany says, you're making it about yourself, and both the girls leave the room. Roxanne is so manipulative. She turns on the waterworks, but both the girls see through it, thankfully. And Briana also burns the letter that she wrote for her dad because clearly this man does not want to be bothered, sad as that is. And that's all for this episode of Teen Mom the Next Chapter. What do you think of Roxanne communicating with their dad secretly? Do you think she has a right to do that? Make sure to leave a comment down below and make sure to subscribe for more Teen Mom recaps every week.